Today I'm 3D printing and assembling the Samurai Edge Barry Burton custom from the game Resident Evil, and I've been given early access to this model to check it out. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to go give it a go yourself. And I gotta say, this one was pretty daunting. There's a lot of parts, a lot of assembly, but it all ended up coming together incredibly well. So first of all, the only issue I had 3D printing was this piece here, which did start to curl up at the back, and as a result could cause some friction because these bits are actually rails. So when taking off the supports, I also took the time to trim up those areas just to make sure there was no friction. Now the first bits are these two. They connect together, and at first it doesn't look like they kind of go anywhere. They just slot into place, and the spring is kind of just left there hovering in the air, but that's actually fine. That's what we're going to be going with. And then we drop in this insert that'll hold the whole thing together, and it doesn't look like much, but that will at the end of the build end up working really well. Then we've got two additional inserts. This goes in super easy. And this one I did need to bring in a flat-headed screwdriver just so I could gently knock it into place to get it fully seated in there. But looks really good. Up next is an additional piece which has a spring that goes in horizontally. And this is some really genius engineering here. And installing it's very odd because you need to put it in here, but also weirdly enough, the spring needs to kind of push into that opening, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like this is the way it should go together. But what you end up with is a piece that will just slightly move left and right. And then we've got this rear section that gets slid onto the back on some rails. And it's those very rails at one side that were carving up on my print bed. So I did give them a little bit of cleanup, and this went on okay. And there's also a slot at the very top of these pieces that another piece is going to go through. So you want to make sure that's cleaned up before you go ahead and assemble. Next up here, we have another piece that just gets slotted in on top. And I just gave this a good old whack until it was in. And that looks really good. And this thing's starting to come together. Next up, we've got this, which goes in with another insert, which allows it to rotate. And it's nice and simple. You'll also notice here that I'm not using any glue. You can actually fully assemble this with no glue. I will run into an issue where I do need to use it. But hopefully by watching this video, you won't run into the same issues. And now I'm installing a very delicate part that has to go through a slot that goes through two different parts. So this was a pain to get in, but once it's in there, it looks good. Now we're actually starting to get kind of more cosmetic elements added on. Now this is by far not kind of complex, but you need it. Basically, I wish I had a third hand to assemble this, because you've got to align these holes with these, these two bits that we're working with right now. But then you also need to get the face plates, put them on too, and get it all aligned, and then start screwing in some screws. And yeah, I definitely wish I had a few more hands to complete that. And I did have to resort to a little bit of glue, as you'll see in a little second. But now I'm assembling the grips, which have little inserts that have the star logo on it from the Resident Evil universe. And these have little screws that go in through those different parts and hold the whole lot together. So this, I should have probably checked the actual holes to make sure they were fully clear, because that had a tiny bit of plastic that was just kind of stopping this from getting a grip. And then once it got a grip, it went in perfectly. However, both top screws, I just could not get them to find any grip and dig in. So unfortunately, I decided to end up gluing these and clamping them in to the sides so that they would then hold on. So hopefully with your 3D print of this, you will not have the same issue. But it is the only place I had to use any glue on this entire build. So super impressive. And this thing by the end of it feels solid. So yeah, just added a little bit of glue into both, clamped them up, and left it overnight to make sure it was totally solid to work on it the next day. And essentially that's the main body done. So now we're moving on to the more mechanical side of stuff. So very much read the instructions on this to get it all perfect. I did have a bit of a print fail as well on this, because the actual part where I'm adding the rubber band, it did have a bit of a mess up when printing, but not in a way that caused any actual issue. So I'll still able to use it, which is nice. Less waste is better. So then you got to go in, and there's a central pillar this goes on, and this is what it should look like once you're done. Then we've got this section, which gets this placed into it. And then we're going to have to put our piece over the top and spread it out. So it goes on and over. And then you want to make sure that this rubber band here goes right down, and it'll go down into an actual hole down there, and it'll disappear. So you should end up with that locked in. Now what you need to do is push this back enough so that it's going to be able to go up. So there's actually a tiny bit of plastic at the top of that other piece there at the back, and that needs to lock into this so that it cannot move. You'll also notice at the back here where the little circle is actually an inbuilt piece of support in the 3D model itself. So you just want to crack that out, and that'll give you a nice gap at the back where our next insert goes in. So that simply goes in there. Give it a little whack just to make sure it's fully seated. And then we need to add on this piece. So this has to go in far enough that the holes align. And at first I wasn't sure because I went in like this and it looked good, but you do need to whack it down enough so it's actually flush. Once it's flush, then the holes should be aligned and you take your insert and lock it into place. And this should be an almost complete top section, which is awesome. And then we've got two pieces here that can only go in one direction because they've got a notch. So you put this piece in first, rotate it down, and then on the other side, you'll notice that same notch. This allows you to align it correctly, and it's just a matter of giving a good old whack, and then that'll lock those two parts together. Next up, we're going to move on to a piece that you don't have to assemble the way I'm going to do it. This is one of the options. So you've got a spring that goes in the bottom here. This then slides on the top. And it's really cool. That spring acts as a little lock to hold that in place. However, do not do this because there's an alternate you can go with. But this will show both versions. So we can go ahead and attach this now to the top of our frame. And it really is cool. Now, at the moment, it's super stiff. But over the course of just playing around with this for a couple of hours, it has loosened up tremendously. And that's without actually adding any oil or anything like that. So this thing is surprisingly good. It moves really well and it's very satisfying. And you can see the way that I'm whacking everything. Everything is not going together very well right now. It is all super stiff. But like I say, by the end of this, you're going to be amazed at how well it all moves. So next up, we've got our front section. So we've got this and this needs to go in here. Now, I'm putting this together wrong, as I'll figure out in a second. So that needs to go in and all slot together. But I was like, wait a minute, this is not going in properly. So that front section on the top is the wrong way around. It actually has a bigger hole on one side and a smaller hole on the other. So you actually want to have it the right way around. And that is with the bigger hole going towards the frame. And that will allow us to then slide it all together. And then we're looking to align two different things. So one is the hole in the frame there that you can see. And then there's also a hole on that piece at the top where we're going to put a bolt in and then screw that in. And that will then go in through and connect up to the body from underneath. And I kind of keep wanting to push it a little bit too far. But as soon as you've got it lined up and you can start screwing it in there, it's freaking excellent. And then you'll notice in the body there, we've got another hole and it's showing light coming through it right now. So we're perfect to go ahead and put this in too. This connects with the rod that you see me put into the other section earlier and locks it in place. So really freaking cool. And again, at the moment, it looks super stiff because it is right now. But we got a little bit of jiggle there. So I decided to screw this in a touch tighter. And now we're almost done. So we're going to go ahead and replace this small part with this bigger one, which I think is just aesthetically pleasing. This means when you're 3D printing this, you don't actually have to bother with that smaller bit. So first we'll go ahead and just do a quick bit of assembly. We've got this piece that goes in here. It can only go in one way. And then we can go ahead and remove the bottom part that I've already placed on this using the inbuilt spring. And then we go and take our new piece. All the angles should align, so that's the wrong way around. And that one is the right way. And you depress the spring so it'll then fit onto it. And of course, the spring is now hidden under there, which made me think, oh, that means I can't disassemble it like I can with this smaller piece. But I was wrong, as we'll see shortly. So I'm doing a little test fit here. And the great thing is the button is sensational. I can't believe how good this button is. It doesn't make sense in my mind that it works, but it works really good. You only have to use it to release. You don't have to use it to push in. But that's when I noticed, wait a minute, this piece at the bottom, it's springy. And I was like, no way does that actually, like the entire, reason for that one piece that goes into the bottom, it's actually to release that part so you can totally disassemble it again. I'm amazed at that. Great engineering right there. But now let's slow everything down. So this video's been playing at 200% speed the entire way through. This took me a good 20 minutes to fully assemble this. It was a lot of fun. Toy has really been a marvel to build. It's really cool. And I'm amazed at how well it's come out. The previous version I did for the same designer, it was really stiff and needs some like proper oil and a bit more work to make it move properly. And I'm amazed by this one. It started off stiff, but it has loosened up by itself. I haven't had to add anything to it. And I'm amazed at how well it all works. It also feels good, very sturdy. It's got some actual weight to it due to just the amount of bits you've got on here. And then the engineering here for the button is my favorite part by far. Like you press the button, it literally releases. If you don't, it literally holds onto it. It's great. So yeah, and this is a little bit later on once it had loosened up a touch, and since then it's got even better. So first of all, it will lock back. It's designed to lock back, and then when you push it forward, it will spring forward on with the, of course, the elastic band in there causing it to pull forward, and it's only become more and more loose as it goes. So yeah, it looks great. It feels great. It's got some really nice mechanical movement. And if you remember, one of the first parts we installed had a spring that was kind of just hovering in the air. But now that it's fully assembled, it is actually up against stuff inside. So it has an incredibly good spring action and it feels brilliant and works great. So yeah, this is just awesome. And that brings us to the end of the video now. So this was an incredible 3D print. It is very much in that kind of fidget toy territory with the rubber band in there and the buttons and stuff. And the 3D printed springs that I've seen in a lot of the really more modern fidgety stuff for 3D prints that are starting to just be incredible in my eyes. And the engineering is starting to get awesomer and awesomer. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.